Is everybody in? The ceremony is about to begin. Wake up!
The movie will begin in 5 moments, the mindless voice announced.
The Doors' potential was fully realized on their self-titled debut album. Sessions began in late August 1966 at Sunset Sound Studios under the watchful eye of producer Paul Rothchild. The songs recorded were the cream of the band's material, and released in January 1967, the album remains one of the most impressive debuts in the history of popular music. And it was not only Morrison's lyrics that sought to break the mold. The debut was a collection of tracks that perfectly combined melody and experimentation, and this enabled them to transcend from the underground to the mainstream. Released in April 1967, it was the seminal track Light My Fire that propelled the band into the pop charts, and by July the single had hit the #1 spot on the Billboard Top 100. Edited down from the 7-minute album version, the song proved to be both accomplished and musically adventurous as a lengthier composition, and versatile enough to work as a 3-minute pop hit.
Light My Fire may be the best song of that period. It stands out. I mean, as far as the Summer of Love and that kind of emotion and taking it to another level, which was set the world on fire, let's go. It was amazing in that. And it, you know, the long version, the complete version, is really quite an excellent, you know, musical work. The shortened commercial single, you know, has elements of that, and it's so popular. I mean, it's almost like this is as strange as you can be and yet be that commercially popular. And so it worked perfect for them for a breakthrough song. Light My Fire was written by Robbie Krieger. Jim really only contributed the line about the funeral pyre. Basically, you know, it was a Robbie Krieger song. It wasn't as dark lyrically as some of Jim's other things, and that was probably good to break them out because they needed something that was more accessible, so I think that worked to their advantage.
Ray and Robbie based the bulk of the song on the John Coltrane, My Favorite Things, where and if you go listen to the Coltrane track, and then you listen to what Robbie and Ray do, you can see what they're doing. The same interplay between these two, which was new.
There is that element of almost improvisational jazz. The Byrds, very famously, have been influenced by John Coltrane already. When you hear the solo that Roger McGuinn does on 8 Miles High, and some of the stuff that they did in their Fifth Dimension album. But this was a much longer track, so it was almost like we're going to have 2 guys from the band do jazz solos. But it was a rock record. It was not a jazz record. It was a rock record. Now, unlike a lot of rock records after that were very long and had improvisational sections, it was very disciplined improvisation, and your attention never wandered. It's also important to remember that in late '66, a 7-minute track, it's about 7 minutes, was very rare on a rock record. These days, or even 2 or 3 years after that, it wouldn't be so rare. The Beatles even had a 7-minute hit single. Break On Through is a great song, but it, aside from getting some local airplay and doing pretty well locally, it was not a national hit. And I think they were thinking, well, because we have almost this jazz break where we have long solos by both Ray Manzarek and Robbie Krieger, well, it's just not a single. You know, you can't chop that up. Paul Rothchild and Bruce Botnick came up with this edit. I mean, it was very fortuitous in that sense that it didn't sound clumsy, that it was like, yeah, it kind of ends at just the right point and goes back into the verse at just the right point. Maybe in a sense they, or certainly Jim Morrison, weren't prepared for how successful it was going to be, because that really changed their almost game plan from, we're about the hottest underground band in California. We're building this thing, and maybe that album would have eventually become a hit without Light My Fire becoming a hit, until suddenly we're pop stars. We don't just have a hit single. We're one of the biggest bands in the United States, certainly, almost within a month or two. That's how quick it was.
And an important factor in the Doors' mainstream success was Morrison's image. American culture had been deprived of a genuine, homegrown male sex symbol for the past decade, and the Doors' lead singer represented a new James Dean, a strikingly attractive and sullen idol, although this rebel had a very definite cause.
What Morrison served for the Doors was not only the huge lyrical inspiration that gave them that depth, but also, you know, he personified the rebel rock star. I mean, you're not really going to get a better example of that than Jim Morrison of that period. That classic Jim Morrison, the Young Lion photos, that period of time stands as the ultimate rebel rock star, and he lived it. He fulfilled that.
You know that it would be untrue. You know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you, girl, we couldn't get much higher. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. The time to hesitate is through. No time to wallow in the mire. Try now, we can only lose, and our love become a funeral pyre. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. Yeah. The time to hesitate is through. No time to wallow in the mire. Try now, we can only lose. And our love become a funeral pyre. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire.
Mm-hmm.